What started off as an injection to help treat diabetes was quickly found to be great for weight loss by many of its users, opening up drugs like Ozempic to a whole new market to make money and a growing group of people that were desperate to get their hands on it, leading to what's now known as an Ozempic epidemic. Although it worked for the job people intended on taking it for, it didn't come without its side effects, and there have been quite a few that people have been suffering from more simple side effects like nausea and vomiting that you get with many other medications, to more serious side effects like seizures, kidney problems, and even comas. With one woman from Ireland dying of organ failure recently whilst taking Ozempic and metformin for her diabetes and weight loss, showing the potential side effects for these drugs aren't as unlikely as people may think, combined with the possibility of muscle and tendon degradation being linked to these drugs as well, and the risks seem endless. But the popularity of these drugs doesn't seem to end, with celebrities, influencers, and even politicians having taken these drugs. The public have latched onto them as well, risking the side effects, along with many being left with Ozempic face, looking like hollow and dying shells of their former selves. But let's explore a little deeper and see just what's happened to some of the people that have taken these jabs and the lives they're now left with. Whilst Ozempic is the most popular version of this type of weight loss and diabetes drug, there are many other versions of it, and they all work in a similar fashion, by replicating hormones that your body produces to slow down your digestive system, decreasing your desire for more food and making you feel fuller when you do eat. Ozempic, along with some of its other versions, have been approved by the FDA as a treatment for type 2 diabetes, which many people can attest to it having helped them do, allowing them better control of their health and potentially lead a new life. Although it started as a treatment for diabetes, the recognition it got for helping people lose weight quickly became what it was mostly known for. And just last year, in 2024, another product almost identical to Ozempic, called Wegovy, would be the first treatment for obesity approved by the FDA. People had been using these drugs long before approval from the FDA, however, with many celebrities being some of the biggest adopters of it. When your career is based largely on how you look, you can understand the desire and the need for anything that will help you progress in that regard, and keep the money flowing in, even if it comes at the cost of your health. One of the earliest adopters of drugs like Ozempic would be Stephen Fry, the British actor and writer, who would say in an interview how the injections would work incredibly well for him. He talks about how his doctor initially put him on the injections and he found it amazing. He didn't want to eat, he didn't want to drink alcohol, and the weight was flying off him. But whilst it may have started well, it definitely didn't end like that. He would say the regular injections would cause him to vomit up to 5 times a day, eventually having to give up all usage of the drug to try and maintain his health. Although for Stephen, in the end it wouldn't turn out to be all so bad, as he would still continue to lose weight after he stopped taking the injections, as he would carry on eating healthily and drinking less alcohol like he was doing previously whilst on the injections. When combined with a healthy lifestyle, it's possible to see long-lasting results when taking the injections. However, if you're solely relying on them to do all the work whilst you starve yourself because they're making you feel full, you can potentially make your situation even worse than when you started. Another British celebrity who would talk about their experience with Ozempic would be former Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who would write about his experience with it in an article on the Daily Mail, and about how he was inspired to take it from other politicians around him who he doesn't name. Similarly to Stephen Fry and presumably his colleagues, it worked well to start with massive weight loss and little to no side effects, at least for a while. However, eventually the side effects would appear, and it would lead him to resent the whole experience. He writes about how he would begin to dread every injection before moving back to exercise and willpower as his main source for any kind of weight loss. While Stephen Fry and Boris Johnson have been open about their experience and the side effects of taking drugs like Ozempic, many of the people online promoting these miracle weight loss solutions haven't. And similarly to the lack of promotion on the side effects, proper dosage of these drugs isn't being promoted either. When doctors prescribe these injections to patients, like most other drugs, they recommend a specific dosage for each patient depending on their own scenario, with the dosage of these injections slowly increasing over the prescribed time period. But again, proper usage and dosage isn't part of the online or TV promotion that these drugs are getting from online influencers or celebrities, who are endorsing these injections and the miracles they seem to perform. One of the less serious side effects from all of this is the Ozempic face that many people get when taking a course of the injections. The eyes and cheeks of the users begin to look sunken in and hollow, almost as if there's no fat on their face anymore and it's just skin and bone, slowly beginning to look more and more like a zombie, with some cases being much worse than others. Scott Disick is one of the more extreme cases of this and is another celebrity who's had to quit his Ozempic usage, after outcry from his fans about the reflection of his rapid weight loss in his face. possibly being one of the more serious and exaggerated cases of Ozempic face you could find. Since quitting Ozempic, Scott has now found a nutritionist to help him regain some of his weight and find a healthy balance without ballooning all the way back up. And this is an issue that many people who stop taking Ozempic face after quitting. The Ozempic rebound, as it's been called, is when a user of Ozempic stops taking the drug and regains all that weight they lost from the injections. Because oftentimes the person taking these injections never actually exercises, never learns how to manage their weight or really knows what a healthy diet is, and they just rely solely on the drugs making them less hungry so they don't eat as much. Once the course of injections comes to an end and they begin to feel hungry again, they revert back to how they were before the drugs and go back to overeating. In some cases, the Ozempic rebound can be so bad that people can end up gaining more weight than they lost, and ballooning up to be even bigger than they were at the start. Whilst for the users this can be an incredibly dangerous problem with massively fluctuating weight loss and gain, for the manufacturers of these drugs it's perfect, as they either have repeat customers who keep coming back once they regain the weight, or they have people who never stop taking the drugs due to the fear of what they may regain. One study found that when giving people Ozempic for a year, participants regained 2/3 of the previous weight lost. The same principle applies with Ozempic as it does with the short-term fad diets designed to help you rapidly lose weight. Unless you're able to have the willpower to eat less and maintain a long-term healthy diet and exercise plan, it's highly likely you'll end up back where you started, with the likelihood of putting your health at a higher risk after the rapid weight changes. The issues discussed so far have almost all been about the physical aspects, but that doesn't mean there aren't any mental side effects either, with reports of patients experiencing depression, anxiety, or life-ending thoughts whilst taking the drugs. Now, the reports don't state that Ozempic is the cause for these mental side effects directly, however it is still concerning and worth noting. Possible mental side effects could also come with the potential rapid weight loss and gain that can come from running a course of Ozempic. The initial happiness from seeing rapid weight loss being washed away as you begin to regain the weight once you stop taking the injections. All of these side effects haven't stopped Ozempic from skyrocketing in popularity and profitability, however, with Novo Nordisk, the company who produce Ozempic and Wegovy, seeing their revenue increase by over $30 billion in 2023. The company has gotten so big that the company's valuation has surpassed the yearly GDP of Denmark, the country the company is based in. This has led some economists to worry that Denmark is turning into a pharma state, with its potential heavy reliance on Novo Nordisk and the company's taxes having helped cushion the country from recent global economic issues. But as with many things in the modern world, what's being sold by Novo Nordisk isn't a solution to any problem. It's a mask to cover over what's really the issue: unhealthy diets and poor relationships with food and a healthy lifestyle. The overindulgence of the modern world being reflected in people's health and food choice daily, and the explosive growth of companies offering the equivalent of a get-rich-quick scheme for your health, to provide something that on the surface looks good for you, but in reality is making you no healthier than when you started. And with a woman in Cork recently passing away due to organ failure whilst taking Ozempic, the massive side effects of large amounts of people taking these drugs may really start coming to light. But like many other drug and pharmaceutical companies in the past, it's possible that Novo Nordisk may not suffer any real repercussions for the side effects their products may have caused. And if they do, it's unlikely to be of any substantial cost to them, like was seen with the opioid crisis just a few years ago in America, with the companies issuing the medication paying just a fraction of the profit they made back to the consumers, who now have to spend the rest of their lives dealing with the consequences.